Welcome to A Balanced Life with Dr. Jacquie here on the Black Star Network. And today we are talking about the S word, stress. It is April, and as we move into Stress Management Awareness Month, our guest today has some tips, some tricks, and some tools in order to get you on your stress management journey. I know it is difficult to figure out in this lifetime how to eliminate as well as alleviate stress. But let me tell you, whether it's biblical, spiritual, cultural, social, emotional, or physical, stress will show up in your life when you least expect it. That's why stress is considered the silent killer. And today on our show, we have our guests, Stacey Owens, Katrina Smith, Dr. Aaron Bishop, and Dr. Tierney. Welcome in, everybody. Oh my goodness, the S word is almost like a cuss word these days. Honestly, when you think about stress and the many forms in which it appears in your life, do you think that stress is good or stress is bad, or is it a combination? I'm going to come to Dr. Tierney on this one because Dr. T, when I think about stress, so we're just going to say I have a head full of gray hair, so no explanation needed on how my body manifests stress. Talk to us about stress and ways in which it can show up in everyday life.
Yeah. So to your first question, is stress good? Is it bad? I do not see anything about stress as being good. Okay. I know there are some people that say, oh, I work better under stress. No, sugar, you may think you do, but your body and what's happening internally is not working optimally. And I think that's the thing we need to really understand about stress, that it's not just an emotion. A lot of times we regulate stress to just a feeling or an emotion or, but stress is something that happens internally in our body. It affects our hormones. It affects our digestion. It affects our mental clarity. So I think when we're really talking about stress, we need to really put it in its proper perspective, that it is something that happens in us as well as it elicits a feeling from us, And so I think when we look at it that way, we'll really take stress more seriously, because I don't think we're taking stress seriously. We've normalized it. Right? Life is stressful, or, a lot of times we feel like we're being more productive when we're feeling the pressure and the stress of it. But really, stress is just as bad as a lot of the physical ailments that we think of. So when we're thinking about, cancer, when we're thinking about, stomach ulcers, when we're thinking about all of these different things, that we wouldn't just normalize that and say, oh, well, no, I don't have to go to the doctor. I just, vomit a little bit every day. Like, no, you would go to the doctor for it, because that's not normal. Stress is the same thing. And a lot of these ailments that we're walking around with in our bodies, they actually come from stress, like stomach ulcers. So when we're thinking about stress, and is it good or is it bad? No, sugar, ain't nothing cute, ain't nothing fun, ain't nothing good about stress.
You bring up a very good point. Katrina, talk to us for a moment, because stress manifests. And sometimes people say, oh, you're paranoid, or you're overthinking things, or, that's all in your head. I hate when people tell me how I'm feeling, in the sense of, oh, that's not real. Oh, you can't be feeling that. It's like, how do you know what I'm feeling? That in itself is annoying and equally stressful when people don't believe you when you say that things are really showing up because of some trigger, some resolved issue, some stress related concern in your life. How do we manage people in our space who have a tendency to kind of tune us out because they think we're being over dramatic?
So managing people that we come in contact, you have to start setting those. And I'm going to use something Dr. T says. We have to know the difference between boundaries, right? You have to limit people that do not hear you or allow you to be your best self. People that really want the best for you will allow you to express what you are feeling. There's a saying out there right now that says, we listen and we don't judge. You just need a couple of people that listen and do not judge. As you work throughout your stress, you need to start journaling, picking up what shows up when you're stressed. What happens? Maybe you walk into your work environment and you see Miss Susie, and she stresses you every time you see her. What are you going to do when you see Miss Susie? How do you work around that? There are people that cause you stress, and you have to be okay with walking away or finding a strategy that allows you to be the best person that you can be in that environment.
Environment. Bishop, talk to us about environment. Because sometimes you can't help who you're around. And most of us, okay, I'm sorry, audience, I'm not going to say that. Some of us, we match energy. So I can give it as well as I can take it. So how do we deal with environments that press us toward not only stress, but acting out of character?
Let's talk about the environment, correct? Because when we talk about environment, I think Dr. Tierney said that stress, or Dr. Jacquie said stress is a silent killer. So we have to acknowledge that when we are in a stressful environment, we are in a community of killers. And some people kill your joy, kill your peace, kill your strength, because they drain you, because when they are around you, they just bring more stressors on. And the thing about stress is that it doesn't discriminate. That stress can definitely attack all facets of your life. And so you have to definitely manage the pressure of that environment. And when I talk about pressure, you know how when you were young, still today, you have peer pressure, those stressors and those things that are of human form, or even has the personality of human nature, can become stressors on your life, and you have to manage those. And so one of the things I do to manage the pressurization of my environment is I get ahead of the environment. I get ahead of the environment by trying to start my day early. See, a lot of people, they have this pressurization of time that condenses the environment they're in, because you got to do so much in this space of time. And that space of time, it brings more stress. I got to do it from 9 to 5. But do it from 5 to lunch, breathe, have some space, then finish the second half of your day, because that is what has helped me manage my environment, that I get ahead of it by saying, I'm going to start my day early. My father taught me these things a long time ago. He was just a country boy from Newberry, South Carolina. He said, the early bird gets the worm, which means I got to take advantage of the opportunity that's afforded to me every day, instead of being in that pressurized environment where it begins to rob me of my joy, rob me of my peace, and rob me of my victories. And so that's what I do. And I hope that everyone controls or maintains their environment by things that are of human nature and things that are just people or things that has a personality to rob your joy.
Let's talk about that for a moment. Stress does rob you of many things in life. And I want each of you to go around and think about that for a second and share with our audience, what are they being robbed of if they don't recognize stress and they don't find ways to deal with stress? And I'll start. I've been in that space before where stress has been a very big part of my life. When I was younger, burning the candle at both ends, trying to, do too much, living this life, that life, and all of those things. And I think as we grow, we learn how not to take on everything. So I would say for me that my first understanding related to stress is discovering what's not for me. I think that was my biggest lesson in life as I rounded out my 20s and came into my 30s. Is like, if it's not for me, I'm not going to be involved with it. And I think that that is one thing that has stuck with me related to stress, and understanding where my stress can begin in the beginning is it's not for Jacquie. So why you in it? So jump in, whoever wants to go next, because I think I see your wheels turning and it's like, let's go.
Well, and I'll jump in and I'll just stick with my same kind of thought process. Stress robs you of good health. If we don't have good health, then what do we have? Your health is truly your wealth. And so every time we allow ourselves to get into a stress spiral, we are giving away our good health. Okay. So that's what I would say. Stress robs you of good health.
Like that.
I would tell you that no one is exempt from stress. If life is going to life, then stress is going to stress. And, sometimes when we try to operate under stress, you're rolling the dice to see what the risk is with the reward. So you're like, man, I'm going to try to make this work. And guess what? I was successful. But why live in a high stress environment? Why live in that type of stress induced opportunity when you can just manage it better by saying, you know what? I'm going to definitely be more strategic than stress. See, some people are struggling with managing life because they let life manage them. I'm going to allow myself to be the manager of my life because every day is a great opportunity. Stress is an equal opportunity provider. It's for everyone. It doesn't discriminate, and it's going to come knock on your door. It's going to text you on your phone and say, I'm here. But when you're there, are you ready? And so that's where I am in this thing called stress.
Katrina.
I think stress robs you of your peace, right? When you're stressed, you're not at peace. Dr. T said it, your health, life be lifing, as Dr. Bishop said, but it robs you of your peace and your joy. And that is something that you should have control over. As you move about your daily life, you should stop and be reflective about what am I grateful for? Start creating that gratitude. I'm grateful for being here. Don't let stress control you.
I like that. When we come back after the break, let's jump into ways that people reduce stress. And these are some good ones. Let me just tell you, these things that we have going on in our life, they're going to get at us, but you can also get ahead of it. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
We begin tonight with the people who are really running the country right now.
Now, Trump is often wrong and misleading about a lot of things, but especially about history.
Donald Trump falling in line with President Elon Musk.
In the wake of the unsettling news that MSNBC has canceled Joy Ann Reid's primetime show, The Readout, Roland Martin and the Black Star Network would like to extend an invitation to all of the fans of Joy Ann Reid's MSNBC show to join us every night to watch Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming on the Black Star Network for news, discussion of the issues that matter to you, and the latest updates on the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief Donald Trump and his unprecedented assault on democracy, as well as co-president Elon Musk's takeover of the federal government. The Black Star Network stands with Joy Ann Reid and all folks who understand the power of Black voices in media. We must come together and never forget that information is power. Be sure to watch Roland Martin Unfiltered weeknights, 6 p.m. Eastern at youtube.com/Roland S. Martin or download the Black Star Network app.
Welcome back, everybody, to A Balanced Life. And as you can tell, stress can rob you of your peace. It can rob you of your joy. It can rob you of time. It can rob you of good health. While at the same time, there are people out there who have found some amazing ways in order to discover how to reduce stress. Whether, like me, I love to axe throw. It is one of my favorite things. I like to rock climb. It gets me in a different headspace. Let's talk about what people are doing in this life to get rid of themselves and stress. And we also want to talk about how people are eating their emotions. Hey, y'all. Now, let me just say, what are some of the things that you do to relieve stress? And I know this is an adult show. It's a faith-based show, but I will say that people do a lot of different things to relieve stress. Oh, people over there smiling, those with significant others, y'all understand what we're alluding to. So there are a multitude. Hey, Bishop, I see you. There are a multitude of ways that people reduce stress.
I'm going to let the adulting be the adulting. You know what I'm saying? See, let me go Bible first, right? So the Bible says that stress is this thing that one can be overwhelmed with. One can be overwhelmed with it, right? But then it says two can defend. And see, when me and my wife come together and we be dating, we be booed up and bayed up, stress. No stress there because the adulting don't want to deal with the childish thing of stress. No, but let me tell you, on a good night after we've had a long week, one of the stressors of me and my wife's union is, man, we're going to throw on some good old music. We're going to throw on some Luther, some Mary, some Beyonce. We're going to throw on, everything that makes the mood turn into the opposite direction, because these things called responsibility or the adulting of life, it can be overwhelming, right? For one can be overwhelmed, but two can easily defend. But that third thing you bring in, which is music, and don't let me get to the line dancing with them fans at, the boots on the ground. When we get to that level of engaging each other as a husband and wife, man, I'm not worried about the stresses of life. At least it's behind me in my rear view. The windshield of what I'm experiencing with my wife literally brings me into managing how life is lifing. And so, yeah, I do the music, I do a good meal, I do some line dancing with my wife, and then we go home.
That smile said, no, we go home.
Where them fans at?
Love it. Oh,
I mean, but honestly, y'all, we have to keep it real, because relationships and intimacy are such a very big part of adult life, and being able to release our stress. So rather than eating our feelings, having good people in your life is always a bonus. And so whichever y'all want to jump in, because Bishop got me tickled over here.
I'm gonna go before Dr. T go, because I'm on the G side. Okay, all right. So we talked about some of those de-stressors. Definitely, what came to my, to know me, this. Stress spelled backward is dessert. And so one of the best things is to have just a little piece of dessert. Nothing wrong with having something good to eat, little strawberry shortcake, some cheesecake. I don't know, maybe your boo-bae thing made you something good that you like to eat. But then also the gift of laughter. Even as we sit here and we're laughing, that helps us relieve stress by being able to laugh. Laugh at your own self. You say some crazy things every now and again. You talk to yourself, laugh at yourself. It helps to relieve that stress. And I'm with Dr. Bishop on this. And nothing wrong with a good dance. Go on and do that. Boots on the ground. Go on and get your fans. Shake your tail feather. Dance like nobody is watching and have a ball at it. It all helps us relieve that stress, and it is so much fun.
It's so much fun. Dr. T.
So I'm going to come somewhere in the middle of them.
Oh, PG, y'all. We got the R-rated, the G-rated, and the PG-rated.
Yeah, I'm going to come somewhere in the middle. So to what my brother, Dr. Bishop, was saying, yes and yes. Sugar. That is it. And I say, and I want to highlight that because a lot of times we'll allow stress to disrupt our intimacy. Because we're so stressed, it can start to cause us to, separate from one another. But it's something about when you come together and that stress time together, yeah, sugar, you want to go ahead and take advantage of that. And even if we go to a science, there is a hormone that combats our cortisol. Cortisol is the hormone that's released during stress, but there is a hormone that's released when we, what I'm saying, that combats that. That actually puts us in not just a good mind space and headspace, but actually calms our body. So it's not just that we're saying like, oh yeah, go, but it actually is good for our bodies when we do that. And of course we're talking about under the, marriage, but we grown. So, okay. But on the other side of the spectrum, you need to know what it is that helps you to de-stress. I employ a multitude of tactics, when I'm stressed out. I will go for a run, and I love to run until my legs burn, my lungs are burning, and I just cannot give any more energy to that thing that's causing me stress because I just gave it all to the pavement. And so that's one thing that I do. Something else that I like to do that's a bit quirky. So do y'all remember the game at the carnivals or the fairs where they'll have like the little clowns lined up, and then you'll take the ball and like throw it at the clown and see how many you can knock over? Well, there's this place here called Frankie's, and Frankie's has that game, and it's only like $1.50 to play. I will go to Frankie's, take my grown self in there with all them babies, and get my little Frankie's card and swipe that card, and I will throw that ball at them clowns like them clowns done stole my money. And until I can really get that stress out and really like work that thing out, and whatever it is, whatever attack, whatever is causing me stress, I like put it on that clown, and I try my best to knock that clown's block off, with that ball. So I fly kites, and so I'm giving you all of these different options. I go get massages. Because relieving stress is not a one size fit all, for everyone. You use what you got, sugar, to get what it is that you want, and so for you, it might be axe throwing, it might be blowing bubbles, it might be flying kites, it might be, throwing balls at clowns, it might be getting with your boot thing and boots on the ground or in the air, whatever that is. It's your job to really play with those to see what works for you, so that when stress comes, you'll already have a multitude of options for you to be able to tap into.
Multitudes of options are really good. So Dr. T was talking about cortisol, let me get the word right. Yep, oxytocins and endorphins. All of those get released. I had to check my notes and make sure I said it right, because I don't want anybody to talk about I was saying y'all could have Oxycontin. I didn't say that.
No.
I said oxytocin, which are endorphins that are released when you're in the act. And I'm going to use the S word, the 3-letter word, the not a dirty word called sex. Yep. Because those are ways, because oftentimes people, between a lack of intimacy and a lack of communication, stress can happen. There's a big distance between what people want to say and then how people act out, not really understanding that they are building stress in their lives simply because they don't have a avenue for release, whatever that release needs to be, can be, or should be in their lives. And people get triggered by anxiety. They get triggered by what people say to them. They get triggered, just by, oh, who do they think they are? And I can't believe her. Or did you see how she walked in? Or he think he all swaggy. All of these different things, how people talk, what they say to each other, bring about different forms of emotions. Katrina, talk to us a little bit about how not communicating openly and honestly can lead to triggers and stress.
When you're not open and honest and you're not communicating, you're holding it, right? I can walk in a room and see someone and be instantly triggered because I haven't let it go. That person doesn't know what they've done to me. They don't know that 2 months ago you walked in, you didn't speak to me, and now I'm pissed off. Like, what did you do to me? And who does she think she is? And I'm eaten up inside every time I see you. Every time I see you, I'm triggered. You make me sick. Oh, I get up. My stomach's upset because I have to start being in control of my emotions. If I'm not willing to go to the person, have a conversation, if I'm not willing to pray and ask for forgiveness, because forgiveness is for me, it's not always about the other person. Those are some things that I need to do so that I can move forward, right? Because that stress is going to eat me up. You over there having a fabulous time, not knowing that I'm over here pissed and I can't enjoy myself. So I have to start being real with myself. I have to be in control of my emotions. I need to work on me. If it means having a conversation with you, if it's sitting down to say, hey, did you know this happened? And this is how I felt. If you feel that it's not going to be perceived by the other person, then you go ahead and you pray and forgive that person so that you can move on and you can unburden yourself with that stress so that you can enjoy yourself.
Hold that thought. When we come back after the break, I want everybody to chime in. I'm going to start with Dr. Tierney because let's talk about that. We need to really unpack what it means to be burdened and bothered. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bria Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Welcome back, everybody, to A Balanced Life. And let me tell you, you're getting some wisdom keys today. Hey, Dr. Tierney, let's talk about that for a moment, because communication and things that go unsaid can literally be problematic for people in their lives. So what does it look like, Dr. Tierney, to be bothered and burdened? Because there are a lot of people walking around with a chip on their shoulder trying to figure out how to get themselves together. Help the people.
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing we have to understand is why we're bothered and burdened. And a lot of times, and I found this in my own life, so Sugar, I'm not coming for you. I'm just telling on myself here, okay? And if it hits you, oh well. But a lot of times we are burdened and bothered because of a C word, control. Mm-hmm. We're trying to control them. We're trying to control that situation. We're trying to control this, control that, when really the only thing we can control is ourselves. And so a lot of times we are stressed and bothered and burdened and upset, or, because of our own expectations, because of something we're trying to control that we don't have control over, should never have had to try to have control over. And really, in a lot of these cases, only God can control it. But we're trying to control something. And when we can't get control of that thing because we never should have tried to even have control of it, then now we're mad at them. We're mad at this. We stressed about this. We stressed about that, trying to figure out how we're going to do this or how we're going to get that and it's not ours to control. This is where prayer needs to come in. Because we've talked about, stress and what it can rob you of, and what Katrina said, it robs you of is your peace. And remember, I've said before that peace is a person, and so when we are in stress, we are often not in prayer. And when we are not in prayer, we are disconnected from the Prince of Peace, and oftentimes when we are in control, we are not giving that thing to God. We are not letting Jesus take that wheel. We are the ones that's trying to drive the bus, and we are driving ourselves off a stress cliff. And then wondering why that thing is not manifesting the way that we want it to, and so I think before we can really start to truly tackle the stress and truly what is the tactic that works best for me, we have to get to the why of why we're bothered, why we're busy, why we are so, stressed about this thing, release our control that we think we're trying to have over that thing. And you will find your stress start to, release almost on its own. And then again, in what I said, identifying what are your stress relief tactics and making sure that is not something that's detrimental to you, because some of the things that we're doing to relieve stress is actually causing us more stress, and so there's nothing wrong, like Katrina said, there's nothing wrong with a little piece of strawberry shortcake. There's nothing wrong with, maybe hanging out with friends and going shopping. But if that is always what you turn to, and now you are in debt, and now you got to have all the cake, and now you drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking and drink, and now it's a whole lot of sex, and we addicted to that thing, or as Dr. J was saying, whatever drug things that's coming in, because we're trying to manage it in that way, that's detrimental. Okay. And that's going to ultimately cause us more stress in other forms, financial stress, relationship stress. We're opening the door to more stress in that way. So to keep us from going down that stress slope, we have to get to the why am I so busy? Why am I so bothered? Why is this burdening me so? Why am I so stressed? What am I trying to control? And then make sure we are connecting with the Prince of Peace, and that then guiding us to that stress relief that ultimately we really want.
Absolutely. Dr. Bishop, talk to us for a moment about these things, because oftentimes people are bothered by things that they have no business in, let alone being bothered by. So how do we, and I know I always say, and men do things differently. And I honestly agree with that. Men do approach life and the things that they face differently. So educate us in that regard for us here and our viewers.
Being a man of this beautiful melanin skin in America can be a stressor just by waking up. And, the fact that you operate in such a high level of protectiveness to make sure that everyone under your last name, authority, your family unit is always taken care of. But one of the weapons of warfare that every man should know, according to my faith and to what I read in the book of Ephesians, the 6th chapter, is the prayer weapon, the weapon of prayer. And one of the things I've learned is that although life be lifing and stress comes and goes, one thing has happened to me is that it has increased my prayer life. And there's power in being a praying man. There's power in knowing the understanding of what prayer can do. And so one of those things that I have learned to manage is my prayer life, because I shouldn't pray when it's just a problem. I should pray preventive prayers of problems. So that's one of the things that I walk according to my faith. But also, when we look at coping mechanisms, right? When we learn how to use coping skills to deal with stress as men, we can't over-medicate, because at the end of the day, everything that we do in response to stress is therapeutic. And some men, we can over-medicate because we haven't balanced. That's one of the things we have to practice, balance what is our approach to breaking down stress. And the truth is, we're not just breaking down stress, we're breaking up stress. I love how Tupac said that many of us are just a rose that grew through the concrete. And in life, you have these controlled environments or these issues that are strong as concrete that is becoming a burden on your growth and your development. And that's when you have to pray for your breakthrough. You have to pray for God to give you this balance of things to allow you to shatter the concrete so that you can continue to grow. And the thing I've appreciated about stress, because you have to also appreciate and acknowledge stress, is that stress can help you grow, because you have to grow and learn from all of those things that are stressing you so it doesn't continue to stress you out. I say this, I always use this in my speeches, that stress can be an invisible tax. It's something that is taxing on your life and robbing you of your joy, your strength, your peace. But when are you going to say I paid enough tax in that certain circumstance or that situation? I'm going to approach it differently now. As men, we have to understand how to reduce that thing or reduce that opportunity or reduce that scenario so we can learn from it, so we can grow from it, so we can become better men. And here's the last thing. What about community? You're not alone. You're not in this struggle by yourself. Find an environment of people who will lift you up rather than tear you down and be that burden. And when you do that, you'll find that community of people who becomes a coping mechanism to help you have a greater coping skill in dealing with everything you can't control, because you have to control the controllable.
Controlling the controllable. Bring Katrina in for a second, because Dr. Tierney and I don't live in this lane. We ain't got no kids. However, Katrina and Bishop raised Black sons. And oftentimes the level of stress that a parent, a mom and a dad go through raising a young Black male in today's society brings about its own stress. I'm going to start with Katrina, because I want to know, how as a mother do you manage the stress you have with your sons and your Black grandson? Sons, as a matter of fact, as we've added to the family. So you got 2 sons and 2 grandsons. So how do you navigate these things as a mother and grandmother?
First, let me say, I spend a lot of time on my knees. I pray constantly without ceasing for all of my children, but that extra prayer for my young men, my sons and my grandsons. The stress that parents feel is unimaginable. The conversations start when that child is off to school, as young as 4 and 5, that they must realize who they are, whose they are, and what is out there waiting for them in the world. That stress you carry with you constantly. But I always put on my armor. I'm always prepared for it. I stand in the gap and pray for those Black boys of mine and my Black grandsons continually. I am always in the gap. The stress, though, is something that for people who are just starting off, you're worried. You're consistently worried from the time they leave your house, they get on the bus, to what happens at school, when they're on the playground, who they're eating with, what is being fed to them in their minds at school, what are they exposed to on a regular basis, who are they befriending, what do their parents believe. So that's a huge stress, right? But what you can do as a person is to surround yourself with a faith community. People that think like you, that are willing to uplift your children, that are good role models, that are willing to help support you along the journey of making sure that these young men see how to be impactful in the world that we live in right now. It is not an easy task. I kid you not. It can seem daunting, but you find that community that will support you and your sons and grandsons that are willing to gird them up and pour into them what they need to survive.
Bishop.
Well, I would tell you that you magnify God and you amplify yourself. And what I mean by that, I got 2 eyes, right? I got 2 ears. That's on my body. But the number of eyes and ears I got in my community helps me tell where my son is at all times. I mean, this thing called cell phones, that you can take pictures with. I've gotten a number of pictures of people saying, I got eyes on your son, and show me a picture. And so he doesn't know that it takes a village to raise a child, right? Especially a Black boy. And when he's around here, he's constantly being reminded, son, pull your pants up on your butt. Hey, son, hey, I know your daddy, right? And the truth is, there's a lot of pressure that comes with it. But guess what? Pressure don't bust pipes, it busts people, right? That's what people believe. But it doesn't bless those who know how to perform. My son gets reminded all the time, son, your dad and your mother, for lack of words, they out here. Well, where are they? Right here in front of you. And so my village, my team, my people who know what my son looks like, because I'm constantly saying, here's what my son is doing. Here's a picture of my boy on his 16th birthday. They know this is Peyton Isaiah Bishop. And that guy doesn't go anywhere without someone knowing, son, remember you come from some people. And that is what has helped me reduce my stress. Because when he goes in certain environments, the sheriff department, who are great friends of mine, know who he is. His teachers, his coaches, my fraternity brothers, church people, people that I support in the community are all a part of that village. And so I constantly magnify God, but I have amplified me.
I love that. When we come back after the break, let's talk a little bit about ending entanglements. I know we haven't heard that word in a long time, but our young people need to understand the value and importance of being able to separate themselves from people, places, and things that can get them caught up, because we might not always be there to catch them, and that causes us stress. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
What's up, y'all? Look, Fanbase is more than a platform. It's a movement to empower creators, offering a unique opportunity for everyday people to invest in Black-owned tech, infrastructure, and help shape the future of social media. Investing in technology is essential for creating long-term wealth and influence in the digital age. The Black community must not only consume tech, we must own it.
Discover how equity crowdfunding can serve as a powerful tool for funding Black businesses, allowing entrepreneurs to raise capital directly through their community through the Jobs Act.
Welcome back, everybody, to A Balanced Life. And let me tell you, today is the day that we are really discussing in this month related to stress reduction, stress alleviation, stress management. These things are important for our own survival. As we have heard, it can take our health away from us in a blink of an eye. So how do you end entanglements? Get yourself out of things, or maybe not get into them at all, that can literally cause you to lose your life. Welcome back, everybody, because today is the day that we want to be able to share with you what it means to determine and recognize when you are too caught up in a thing. And I'm going to start with Bishop because, you know, people can get caught up and not realize they're caught up until it's too late. Mm-hmm. And for those of us who are in their friend circle, their brother circle, sister circle, sorority, fraternity, whatever organization, we're like, what y'all doing? And why are you doing it? It's like people have a tendency, Bishop, to do the most and too much all at the same time. How do we help people end entanglements that could literally take their lives?
You better let go and let God. I mean,
you said better.
You better let go and let God. When you're dealing with entanglements, you're cross-pollinating and, you know, giving brand awareness to someone else. You got to really know who you are when you are dealing with other environments, right? Or other communities or people with this entanglement. One of the things I've learned to do is go in spaces where I'm appreciated, not tolerated. When I look at life and the responsibilities that are on me, there are certain environments I cannot be entangled with. There are certain conversations I don't want to be involved in, because every time I interject myself into a situation or a scenario, I get entangled because of the weight of my responsibility, of the weight of what I bring to the table. And some of us got to stop playing the risk and reward game on things that do not give you any profit, that doesn't give you the gain that you're looking for. The Bible says, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? My soul, my integrity, my reputation is so important to me that I don't want to be entangled with something that is a weave that I didn't create. And so when I look at where I am, I do have that situational awareness that, oh man, look where this is taking me, or look at this thing that is in front of me that may not come out the best for me. So those things that I've learned through life, through maturity and growth, it allows me to not to reduce myself, right? Put myself in a challenging circumstance that I cannot explain later. And so that comes with growth, because many of us will be in the situation, and before we know it, we're like, how did I get here? Well, the question is, how do you get out?
That's a great observation, because you get into that space, you guys, when I know for me, like there's outsiders, there's insiders, and then there are times I'm at odds with myself. You know, Dr. Tierney, you know, those entanglements and managing the stress zone that comes with those things, where do people, or should people, reside? Because there has to be a delicate balance between how you attack and approach, you know, those things that are necessary to keep you sane in this life.
Yeah. I think this is where boundaries really come into play. When we know, and this really highlights why I say we should have boundaries and not barriers. Because if we have barriers, remember, sugar, barriers are about them, and we are looking at them and what's going on with them. But boundaries are about us. So when I'm looking at me and I know what my proclivities are, I know what gets me, into a stress space. I know what gets me wanting to act out of character or getting me, then I know what it is that I should or should not do. And those become the foundation for my boundaries. I'm not going there. I'm not saying this, or I am going to do this, or no, I need a minute because I have to pray every morning before I go, that then sets our boundaries. And when we have those boundaries, those healthy boundaries that are based on our needs, what we know about ourselves and the honest view of ourselves, not this view of ourselves that we think like, oh, no, I'm not. No, that real view of yourself, I know that I have a tendency to fill in the blank sugar. Okay. Build your boundaries on the real you. And then when you have that, then that's what you're functioning from. Now, the next thing, once you set your boundaries, and this you guys haven't heard me say yet, you have to communicate those boundaries. So what that means is that in some cases, yes, we should ghost them. We should ghost that situation. We should ghost that conversation. We should just up and leave. This is where the Bible says, turn and go the opposite direction. Repent, just turn and go in the opposite direction. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. But in some cases, you need to have a conversation. You need to communicate that thing. And this is not to walk in the room and say, well, my boundary is, but if you know that, let's say, let me give you a real example here in a situation that I know. One person in the relationship struggles with anxiety. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so in their struggle with anxiety, what they end up unintentionally doing is creating an anxious home. Okay. And so then some of the demands or the conversations that are happening within that home and with their spouse and with their significant others and with their children is creating this tight, tense, stressful environment. Okay. But the person that now knows the boundaries is like, nope, this is what I need to do for me. So then they go and communicate with that stressful, person and say, hey, when you, say this or do this, I feel anxious, stressed, and that's not good for me. So can we, instead of managing it this way, can we start managing it this way? Let's look at it, doing it this way. That's a healthy communication that can alleviate stress, but also help to make that relationship stronger. Okay, so as we are navigating these different areas and environments that we should be and should not be in, it has to first start with a real honest self-awareness, self-evaluation of ourselves, creating those boundaries, and then how we communicate those boundaries. Is it that I walk away, or is it that I need to have a conversation because God gave me this relationship? He put me in this family. That wasn't by accident. Maybe you're the one that is supposed to break the chains of that anxious behavior pattern that has ran through your family until it ran into you. And so the onus is on you to take that first step to say, hey, am I going to run from this? Or is this something I'm supposed to run from? Or should I have this communication? Should I model this new behavior and then let that become the new way that we do things? And because everybody is different, everybody's situation is different. Sugar, I can't tell you which one is the one for you to do. That's something that you have to evaluate. But of course, like y'all know, I give a free 30-minute session where we can have that one-on-one and I can help give you more in-depth guidance, on that. But because everybody is different, this is how you should then be asking yourself that question or coming to talk to me so that we can look at this thing to see how you can manage this stress and what it is that you should be doing to remove yourself from these stressful environments, these stressful situations, and potentially help those around you do the same.
I totally concur with that. And I'm going to come to Katrina in a second. But, when we think about what the 5 R's are of being able to deal with stress, and all of those things, you have to rethink things, relax sometimes. You have to be able to release them, and even reorganizing our thoughts and, reducing all the chatter, that is around us. And Katrina, sometimes people have a difficulty with processes because they got to put in the work. They want somebody else to just give them a quick fix and do it for them. And that's not going to help them, as Bishop said, grow into what they need to in order to do what's relevant for them. How do we manage the process of dealing with stress?
So when we think about managing the process, there is no quick fix. You didn't get to this point overnight. So it's not going to be an overnight fix, right? So the process about how do we do this, you hit on something, Dr. Jacquie, when you talked about the 5 R's. So looking at some of those R's, take time to rethink. Rethink how you got there. Think about relaxing. How does that equate to self-care? How do you take time and make time and create a space where you're able to process what is going on? And then reorganizing. I think about that. That's one of the big R's out of the 5 for me personally, is reorganizing. You have different seasons in your life. And as you go through the different seasons of your life, you need to reevaluate where you are. You need to reorganize to put things in proper order. So what works, and I like what Dr. T said, what works for one person won't work for every person, right? But if you're journaling, if you're reevaluating, if you're meditating and spending time with yourself and going back, and you are taking the time and putting in the work to assess yourself and see what is best for you. Now, you may not be able to do it by yourself. You may need a coach. You may need someone to help you, to shape and to provide that extra structure for you as you go along. But you must commit to doing the work. You must realize and own it. Raise your hand and say, I own it. I need help. I need help with being the best person I can be and putting this stress aside. So you have to be willing to take the first step. You have to be committed for the long run. This is not a 2K, a 3K. It's a journey. You need to pace yourself. Find people along the way, whether it's a coach, your pastor, trusted individual, therapist that can help you with the structure so that you can reach your end goal, which is to remove the stress so that you can be the best person that you can be.
I like that. So I'm going to ask Dr. Tierney and Dr. Bishop to give us. So Katrina said, I want us to give our audience a take time to. So Katrina said, take time to take the first step and to pace yourself. If you're giving someone this same, Dr. Bishop, what would be take time to, and then Dr. Tierney, take time to?
Mm-hmm.
So what I want to believe is that you take time to let them do them. Mm-hmm. I'm in this let them season, like let them mess around and find out. Like too many people are entangling themselves in your business when you need to stand on your own business. And one of the things I've learned to do is just say, let them do them. Let them find out. Let them, right? Let them be frustrated. Let them be angry. Let them be disappointed, because at the end of the day, take care of yourself.
I love that. Dr. T.
Yeah. Dr. Bishop ended right where I was going. I was going to say, take the time to keep your eyes on your own paper. Be that stepping up your self-care. Be that scheduling a free session with me. Be that more time in prayer. Be that reevaluating or setting your boundaries. Be that looking at the needs for your house and your health and your home. Whatever that is, if we are so focused on what they're doing or trying to control what's out there, then we're not keeping our eyes on ourselves. And so for a lot of us, we can alleviate a lot of this stress if we just take the time to keep our eyes on our own paper.
I love that. Keep your eyes on your own paper. When we come back after the break, I'll give my reflection.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/Fanbase to invest. Why? because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Welcome back, everybody. As you can tell, discovering how to have a healthy mind and managing stress isn't easy. It takes a lot, and it's up to each of us to give ourselves that responsibility of being able to say, I got this, I know I can do it, but sometimes we can't do it by ourselves. So in this season of your life, allow yourself to bring other people in after you've taken time to evaluate, reassess, reorganize, take some deep breath and relax, and then move into what is for you. Thank you for watching. Bye now.